r/AskReddit.
What is the most fucked up thing you have seen?
A response to the post.
I didn't see the accident, but while living in Jamaica I saw a man carrying a mangled body just walking in the country. I later learned they were brothers, and worked construction together. One brother fell from a great height, and the other brother was just carrying his body, walking towards the hospital even though the brother had died on impact. He was just in a terrible sad mania.
A response to the post.
Got called to the ER to help work a code. It was a man who had a bloody nose that simply would not stop bleeding. By the time they got him to the ER, he had lost so much blood he was in arrest. Doing CPR on a dude who died from a bloody nose is something I'll never forget. So much blood.
A response to this comment.
This was me. Severed sphenopalatine artery. Broken nose week prior from blunt force trauma due to rugby. Nasal septum pierced the artery and it held in place for 1 week. Had a blood pressure spike which ruptured the lodged septum resulting in catastrophic arterial bleed from my nose. Resulted in respiratory, followed by cardiac arrest. 4 operations in 4 weeks in hospital including stints on ICU, HDU, and specialist ENT wards. 5 blood transfusions in a very traumatized A&E department. So much so that my dad, also a doctor, found the junior doctor crying in the cubicle and he just hugged her and told her it wasn't her fault. She was the first to treat me and felt that she hadn't dealt with it properly. As my dad said, how the heck are you supposed to know the cause when blood's spurting out of 22, fit and healthy, year-old's tear ducts, nose, and mouth?
A response to the post.
Car accident OMW home from work. I stopped to call 911 and got out to check on people. The guy I had checked on was holding his intestines in his lap. I don't have a clue how I was able to stay composed for his sake, telling him everything was fine. It was just a scratch, yada yada.
A response to this comment.
Pardon my ignorance if the answer should be obvious, but do you know if he survived?
A response to the post.
When I was a paramedic I got called for a self-inflicted gunshot wound. It was an 80-year-old man. Apparently the day before he buried his sister and she was the last one of his family and friends left. Everyone in his life had died. He decided to put a 12 gauge under his jaw and end it all. The wall was covered in skull fragments, chunks of brain matter, and what was left of his head just looked like mangled hamburger meat. That wasn't the worst part though. I how this happens, but his face was laying next to his head completely intact, halfway dangling off of the pillow that he'd laid down on. That was almost 10 years ago and I'm still bothered by it.
A response to this comment.
I had a call like that. The guy was suicidal after a terminal diagnosis and his family thought they had removed all the guns from the home. He found an old shotgun in his attic. When we got to him to pronounce, all that was left was the back of his skull and lower jaw. He was wearing a red silk robe, blue pajama pants, and slippers. I looked up as I tagged him and there was a black and white cat watching us. Spooky. I felt so bad talking to his poor wife.
A response to the post.
Watching the cancer take over my uncle's body, making him go from looking fine to completely unrecognizable in just 2 weeks. Side of his neck, where the cancer was first discovered a year before, was inflamed to the size of a watermelon. When it was decided to take him off of life support, my aunt and cousin wanted him to pass in their home and not the hospital. At this time I had no clue how aware of his surroundings he was and if he knew what was happening to him. He had already looked dead besides breathing and groaning. Family came to visit one last time and in a struggling voice he said, "You guys can watch TV if you want." First time I had heard him speak in weeks and it sent chills down my spine. Couldn't believe he was fully aware and able to speak at that time.
A response to this comment.
Fuck cancer. Saw my aunt extremely weak and fragile 1 week and unresponsive, and barely clinging on to life the next. Family came to see her one last time and I was told when my grandpa saw her, she was able to say dad. Might have been the last thing she ever said.